Hello. So, when I was younger, I was given this little pouch that I hold before you. I don't really remember how or from whom I received this pouch. Perhaps from a relative returning from an exotic holiday or a bizarre Christmas stocking filler from my parents. What is in this pouch, and this might be hard for most of you to see, are called Mongolian worry people. It's essentially a very tiny man. I remember first laying eyes on this gift and being baffled as to why someone would choose to give me some very tiny people inside a bag. Was I supposed to play with them? I decided to read the instructions in the hope of understanding why this had been the gift of choice. What these read were that if I was ever worried, I was to speak to the worry people, put them under my pillow, and then sleep on it. And then this would help my worries go away. Again, confusion hit as to why I would speak to such tiny people about my problems instead of a friend or family member. But then the night came where I was worried. I was anxious. I was scared. And I didn't want to speak to anyone I knew. In fact, I wasn't quite sure how to verbalize my feelings. So it dawned on me to test out these worry people and see what they were made of. So I took them out of their bag, I lay them on my pillow, took a deep breath, and I spoke to them, revealing my innermost feelings and thoughts, and then I went to sleep. Funnily enough, I woke the next day feeling rejuvenated, struck by the power of just relaying my thoughts without interruption. The truth is that nowadays it's getting harder to find that person that will really listen to you. It's been said before that we are losing our listening. It's said that we spend 60% of our time listening, yet only retain 25% of what we hear, which is a fact we can probably all sympathize with, yet hopefully no one is sympathizing with that right now. On a purely matter-of-fact basis, how often do we find ourselves just listening, without recording it, writing it down, without our phones on us so that we may receive texts, WhatsApps, emails, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram notifications, without the TV or radio on in the background or a headphone at least in one ear? We all lead such busy and complex lives that listening to someone can be hard, time-consuming, tiring. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that we feel like it's not our fault. So it seems the way we live our lives is interfering with our ability to listen. With all of that going on, and much more I'm sure, how can we possibly pick up on the subtleties in someone's language, or to realize that if someone says that they're fine or okay, that they're not at all fine or okay? Even to realize the significance of someone not saying anything at all. When we do find time to listen in our busy schedules, we often fall into what I call the classic friend's guide to listening. Again, this is no bad thing, and often it is exactly what people are looking for, except often it is not. I'd like you all to think about a time where you spoke to a friend recently about anything at all. Did this friend perhaps fairly quickly relate to a time where they had felt exactly the same as you? Or in fact, the same thing had happened to them, and before you knew it, you were talking about their experiences instead of your own? Did this friend perhaps agree with you, yet claim they had it much worse? Their essay is due sooner, their family more pressurizing, their housemates more annoying, their stress levels higher. Did they perhaps offer you some advice or a solution to the problem, instead of just listening to how you felt? A solution which, in actual fact, was not very helpful or even that relevant to what you were experiencing. Did they give you that look of, I'm not really sure why you're talking about this, doesn't seem like a big deal? Did they tell you not to worry, even though you knew that you would never stop worrying? I reiterate that we are all guilty of this, and that sometimes exactly what we do want to hear is that things will be okay, and that someone has once felt exactly the same as us. Except the truth is, often, this is not the best way of listening, and there is an alternative way of listening. This is called active listening. In this role, we take on a slightly different role from what friends may often do. We are non-judgmental, non-advisory, non-directive. We avoid doing what friends may automatically do, and instead focus entirely on the other person, mindfully hearing and attending to the words spoken by another. We ask open questions. How do you feel that that's happened? What do you mean by a particular word? We explore emotive language. The meanings of words that people use are so personal to them. It is likely in this room we have all once said we felt depressed. Yet to some of us that will mean a clinical depression, a finding it hard to get out of bed depression. Yet to others that will be a I'm going to sit on the couch with my mates and eat ice cream kind of depression. Another thing this listening emphasises is the importance of sitting back and not interrupting at all. We can show someone we are listening through using prompts such as, okay, sure, without actually interrupting someone's train of thought. It's also important to note that silence can be key. It can be so uncomfortable to sit in silence, so much so that often we fill it with awkward noises or terrible singing. Yet in a conversation, especially one that's addressing something personal, silence gives someone space to think. It's also important to note that sometimes people don't want to talk, and actually just sitting in silence with someone can be a comfort. Another thing as listeners we must be aware of, and this links with being non-judgmental, is to be empathetic, to respect how it feels for someone to come to you and talk to you about something. I'd like you all now to do a little exercise with me, please, and I promise it will not be very interactive. I'd like you all to close your eyes. Please close your eyes. I'd like you all in your heads just think about something that you have never told anyone before, or perhaps you've just told one person that you were very close to. This might be something that's happened to you or that you experienced. It might be something scary, embarrassing, humiliating, sad, or perhaps instead just something that's extremely personal to you that you wouldn't want anyone else to know. I'd like you to really visualize that moment. What does it involve? What feelings does it bring up for you? Why is it that you wouldn't want anyone else to know? With that in the forefront of your mind, I'd like you to turn to face the person next to you, open your eyes, and tell them about that thing. Okay, I'll stop you now. I'll stop you now, as of course there is no way that I expect you to bear all to the person next to you. But I'd like you just to think for a moment about what does that feel like just then? What feelings came up to you? What feelings were just brought up? I'm guessing feelings of terror. Maybe your face started to go a bit red, or your heart started to beat, or someone checked where the nearest exit was. But that feeling right there is why it is so important to respect at all times someone coming to you and talking to you about something. The step it took me to talk to these inanimate worry dolls is bigger than some may imagine. And it felt scary. It felt strange. And that is why it is so important to respect how it feels for someone to open up and start talking to you. So in conclusion, when I was approached to do this TEDx talk, I thought about what it is that TEDx means. And as most of you in this room probably know, it is about ideas worth spreading. So the idea I want to spread today is listening, but not in its obvious sense. You may and have hopefully picked up the idea that listening is important. You may and have hopefully picked up the idea that listening can help someone who just needs someone to talk to or be with. But the idea I really want to spread today is the idea of and behind active listening. The idea of taking yourself out of your own busy and complex life and allowing yourself the time to be absorbed into somebody else's, to utterly be there for someone, to explore how it is they feel, to really respect and listen to what it is they have to say, and to be their Mongolian worry person. Thank you.